Okay, it's 2 minutes past 2 in Rome time already. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Welcome to this online training on FERM, the Framework for Ecosystem Restoration Monitoring for GEF projects in Africa. And it's wonderful to see participants joining us from various African countries. Thank you very much. Now let's get started. This workshop will be conducted in English. Please note that another session will take place in French on May 23rd. Participants should have received an invitation email for the French session. Also, please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel to enable revisitation by all participants. I have a few house rules. During the presentation, please keep your microphones muted. Also, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We want to know where you are and the organization you work for. Please also include your email, then we can facilitate the process to register you in FERM. Feel free to type your questions in the chat and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. A brief introduction. I am Temitope Abisoye, your moderator for today, and I work in the Forestry Division of FAO in the development of the FERM, which is the Framework for Ecosystem Restoration Monitoring. The Framework for Ecosystem Restoration Monitoring is designed to support the transparent monitoring and reporting of targets 2 of the CBD Global Biodiversity Framework, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and other restoration initiatives. Joining me here are my colleagues, Carmen Morales, who leads the work on the registry of GEF projects and FERM. And I also have with me Christiane Sata, who support the compilation of best practices. Additionally, my colleague Gregory Obiang is here, and Pablo Martin, and both of them will be presenting and leading the French session schedule for next week. On my list today, we have our agenda, which is going to take place for 1.5 hours with 5 points to cover on the agenda. The first agenda is the presentation on the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration and the Global Biodiversity Framework of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Secondly, we have the introduction to FERM outline and the components. And thirdly, we're going to have a live demonstration of the registration of GEF restoration projects in FERM. Fourthly, we have the live demonstration on the collection and dissemination of good practices via the FERM platform. And lastly, we are going to have the Q&A session. Now I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague, Christiane Satter, to provide us with a quick background surrounding the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration and Target 2 of the GBF of the CBD. Over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for this great introduction. And as she mentioned, my name is Christiane Satter, and I will provide you an overview of the UN Decade Task Force on Monitoring and the UN Decade in general, and the relation to the GBF Global Biodiversity Framework Target 2. So to start, just a bit of background and context for everyone. So the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration was established in March 2019 by the UN Decade General Assembly, and it aims to support and scale up efforts to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems worldwide. And the lead organizations of the UN Decade are FAO and UNEP. And also the UN Decade established 5 task forces to help to implement this global movement of scaling up restoration efforts and also reverse the degradation. So among these 5 task forces, 2 are led by FAO, the Best Practices Task Force and the Monitoring Task Force. And all of us that Tammy introduced, we work for the Task Force on Monitoring. And to explain you a bit more about this task force, so the main purpose of the Task Force on Monitoring is to collaboratively develop a monitoring framework for the UN Decade to track global progress on restoration. And it's composed for 400 technical experts from more than 100 organizations. And also within the structure of the Task Force on Monitoring, we have different subgroups and working groups working collaboratively. So we have a group on the terrestrial ecosystems, we have a group on aquatic and transitional ecosystems, we have a group on socioeconomic socioeconomic group task force about like on monitoring restoration for socioeconomic indicators. And also we have established in 2022, after the launch of the Global Biodiversity Framework in Montreal, we have established a Target 2 working group. And this is a partnership that is working together to develop the methodology and the resource guide for the target 2 of the Global Biodiversity Framework. We also added here the slide for you to everyone to be aware of target 2, which aims to ensure that by 2030, at least 30% of areas of degraded terrestrial, inland water, and coastal and marine ecosystems are under effective restoration in order to enhance biodiversity and ecosystem functions and services, and also to improve ecological integrity and connectivity. So the headline indicator for this target is area under restoration, and FAO was nominated by the CBD Secretariat as the lead organization to develop the methodology for the target 2. So we, as within the task force on monitoring, we included the target 2 indicators and parameters within the framework for ecosystem restoration monitoring, which is the FERM. So the FERM is this platform we are building together within the task force on monitoring, and it is the official monitoring platform for tracking global progress and disseminating good practices for the UN decade. And it also supports countries in reporting areas for target 2. And the process to develop the FERM has been supported by 4 main pillars. The first one is collaboration. So FERM brings together frameworks and mechanisms that are collecting data on restoration under a common interoperable framework. The second pillar is reporting. As I mentioned, we are developing a platform to support countries in reporting areas under restoration, and also FERM will be helping the report on global restoration efforts for the UN decade. The third pillar is monitoring. So also FERM offers a platform, guidance, and capacity development for collecting geospatial data. So this will be improving monitoring for areas under restoration. And the fourth pillar, which is also linked to all of the others, all pillars, they are connected, is transparency. So FERM will be improving transparency by providing a public searchable database of geospatial data related to restoration, where people can track the progress on ecosystem restoration globally. And by saying that here, this is the main page of the FERM, of the Framework for Ecosystem Restoration. You can scan the QR code and then you will be redirected to this main page. And here, just to introduce you to the FERM functionalities, what is operational now in the platform. So the FERM consists of a registry of restoration initiatives and their good practices, covering all ecosystems, a geospatial tool to visualize restoration data, a search engine that shares good practices and initiatives on ecosystem restoration, and a dashboard that is still under development, but this will provide analytics on the compiled restoration data globally. And here, just to introduce you an overview of one of the functionalities of FERM, which is the FERM registry. So here is an overview on how to register initiatives and document their good practices. My colleague Carmen will be providing you a better overview of the registration of initiatives, and I will provide you a demonstration of the good practices later today. But here is just a summary of the process. So the first step is the sign-up process. It is open. You can easily sign up by email. And then after signing up to the FERM registry, you move to the second step, which is the documentation process, where you can register your restoration initiatives. And after doing this, you can also add multiple good practices associated to this initiative. And to do this, you have to complete standardized forms that will be provided you an overview of these forms. And the third step is the review and publication process. So initiatives and good practices, they are reviewed and published on the FERM geospatial platform and the search engine. And here, just to give you an idea of another functionality, which is the FERM search engine I just mentioned. So after documenting initiatives and good practices, they will be available online through the FERM search engine, which is a collaborative effort among both FAO-led task forces, the task force on best practices and the monitoring. So the aim of this searching tool is to provide like a place where different frameworks and platforms can collaborate with each other to provide information and give access to practitioners around the world on restoration that can access information on initiatives and good practices. So this search engine is a collaborative effort for the moment with different platforms such as Nature Commitments from WCMC and UNEP. We also have the GEF projects already visible in the FERM search engine for initiatives. For the good practices FERM search engine, we have a collaboration among 4 different platforms: the FERM registry, GoPro4, WOCAT, and Panorama Solutions. We will provide you more details now later in this webinar. Thank you very much. I think now I'll give the floor to my colleague Carmen, who will provide you an overview for FERM for GEF projects. The floor is yours, Carmen. Thank you.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm Carmen Morales. I work also in the FERM and the UNDecade team, and I'm responsible for the integration of the GEF projects in the FERM platform for monitoring the restoration components. Yes, and basically my presentation is going to be about how the idea of integrating. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. Yes. So how we came to the idea of integrating basically the information that is coming from the main funding mechanism for the 3 Rio conventions, such as the Global Environmental Facility projects and the Green Climate Fund projects, and how we can connect these projects that are funded by this funding mechanism with the UNDecade and ecosystem restoration and with the 3 Rio conventions. So we thought that FERM, the framework for ecosystem restoration, this platform, is a glue that is linking the GEF and GCF restoration projects with the UNDecade reporting and the 3 Rio conventions, in particular the CBD convention that is reporting towards, in the global biodiversity framework, is reporting towards target 2, such as my colleague Christiane explains. So what one of the activities that we have been doing was to customize FERM for GEF projects, and we are making and asking GEF project managers to use FERM to monitor the achievements at project level in terms of restoration. Okay. We have developed a methodology for the GEF portfolio. So in the next slide, I have some information on the methodology. Yes, so we came out at the beginning of this exercise, we developed a customized methodology for the GEF portfolio to be integrated in the FERM platform. So there is 3 levels of assessment, as you can see in this pyramid. In the first level, we're talking about restoration commitments. So this, in the GEF language, would mean how much hectares of land you have committed in the design phase of your project, how much hectares you have committed in terms of all the GEF core indicators 1 to 5 that are spatially explicit, and LDCF core indicator 2. They are all related to restoration activities. In the level 2, we're also requiring in the FERM to upload restoration or management plans so that we have a better understanding on how the restoration and the management of sustainable land management has been planned. So basically, in this management plans or restoration plans, we are requiring a description of the restoration activities in the pilot site, as well as the extension of the restoration work in hectares. It's also important to include the description of the pilot area, a work plan to monitor the restoration activities, and management tools to monitor the restoration in the restoration sites. So this will be the second level of assessment that we are requesting in the FERM platform. And then the third level of assessment that is spatially explicit information of the GEF projects. So basically, ideally you would be providing the boundaries of the restoration sites or the sustainable land management that you're applying. If not, you can also provide the points, the coordinates, or you can also provide the administrative areas. We will explain this a little bit better when we will show the tool. But basically, this will be the methodology, and this is the main thing to be understood by the GEF staff in order to integrate the data sets, the data of the projects in the platform. Okay, and in the next slide, I will be talking about the commitments at the global level of the FAO GEF projects. So basically, where, as I explained before, the global environmental benefits in the GEF projects, they are monitored with the GEF core indicators, no? These ones are the 6 core indicators that are related to spatially explicit information. So here I have put together the commitments in terms of GEF core indicators from the 6th replenishment in 2014 until the 8th replenishments of the GEF funds in 2022 until 2026. So I'm covering GEF replenishment cycles 6 to 8. Please note that this is only for FAO projects, okay? Don't be confused with the other agencies. We're still first starting with an exercise for only the FAO GEF portfolio. So as we know, core indicator 1 and 2 are more related to conservation and sustainable management of biodiversity in terrestrial and marine areas. Core indicator 3 is more related to direct restoration, areas of land and ecosystems under restoration. Then we will have core indicators 4 and 5 that are more related to landscapes and marine habitat under improved practices, including in production systems such as agriculture, rangeland, forestry, aquaculture, tourism as well, that lead to improved environmental conditions and for which management plans are under implementation. And finally, we also wanted to include the least developed countries fund core indicator 2 that is related to reducing vulnerability and increased resilience through innovation and technology transfer for climate change adaptation. In this last indicator, we will see if this activity is really restoration or not, because if it's more related to technological innovation or something that is not really restoration, then it wouldn't be considered as restoration. But mainly when we're talking about area of land management, climate resilience, there is a restoration component. Okay, and in the next slide, I'm going to talk about the data harmonization. How are we harmonizing the data in order to understand what is restoration in the context of the UN decade and in the context of the global biodiversity framework? So we have been closely working with the Society of Ecological Restoration that has come with a definition of restoration that is innovative and that is called the restorative continuum. So basically, it is touching a wider spectrum of activities or restorative activities that is wider than the traditional view of restoration of going to the land and planting trees. So here, in this definition of restoration, the restorative continuum, we have different parts. So on the left side, if you look at this graph, you have the reducing societal impacts that are actions that reduce impacts through less damaging ways to consume and utilize ecosystem services across all sectors. Then you have remediation that will be polluted on contaminated sites, remediation in polluted sites. You also have, when you go to the right, rehabilitation. This means areas that are including production or human settlement that are being restored, such as agriculture plantations, for example. And when it comes to ecological restoration, it is normally more in native ecosystems. And here we are at the right side of the spectrum. So for the Society of Ecological Restoration, all these activities, they are embedded, they can be defined as restoration. And what I wanted to do with this graph is to harmonize the definitions of the core GEF core indicators with the definition of restoration. That means that in a way, all the GEF core indicators 1 to 5 and LDCF core indicator 2 could be part of the restorative continuum. So this is very clear. This is important that it needs to be clear because we want to integrate all the information of all the 5 core indicators, 6 core indicators within FERM. Okay, and the next slide. Here again, I'm talking about data harmonization. No, not yet. Okay, perfect. So there are some of the parameters of the target 2 methodology. The target 2, remember, it's areas under restoration in the world. And when it comes to reporting to the CBD convention on target 2, there is different parameters that are relevant. For example, committed area to restore in hectares. This is what we commit. This would be for the GEF projects, what we commit in the design phase, in the annex where we say how many indicators we commit for each core indicator. For example, in a given project, maybe you will commit 40,000 hectares under GEF core indicator 4 and 20,000 hectares under GEF core indicator 3. So this would be the committed areas. Then the activities and the the intervention would be what you're really doing on the ground. The restoration or management plans where you're describing what kind of activities you're doing. The restoration type, if it's more rehabilitation or ecological restoration, the kinds of ecosystems that you're restoring, if it's a forest, what kind of forest, if it's a grassland or if it's a wetland. So this also would need to be defined, and we're asking for this information. And then the restoration status, if we're in design phase or we are in midterm review, we would be already in the implementation phase, and in the terminal evaluation, we will be ending the project. So basically, this will be the parameters. Now, in the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about how we see it in terms of time frame to upload the project information in the FERM. So what we thought here is that following the GEF project cycle, there is the project design phase, there is the midterm review that occurs normally after 2-3 years of implementation, and then we have the terminal evaluation at the end of the project. So we would like to make mandatory for the GEF projects to upload this information in these 3 phases, and then to make it optional every year in the project implementation report to upload the information. This is, we do it because it's important to integrate all the restoration data in the platform, but also because it's going to be helpful also for the project as a monitoring tool to monitor the achievement of the core indicators and to monitor the restoration activities. And in the next slide, I talk again a little bit about the arrangement for the FAO GEF projects to be uploaded in FERM. So here again, the pyramid, there should be a global supervision, or this is how we are doing it in the other regions, then a regional supervision, and then there is the project data insertion in FERM. The global supervision, as for now, it's being done by me from headquarters. So I'm reviewing or coordinating the FERM integration of GEF project data of all the regions in the world. For each of the regions, there should be, or we are having regional focal points. For the RAF portfolio in Africa, we're missing this regional focal point. So I wanted to also discuss with you the possibility of having one person that is in this meeting that would like to be the focal point for the RAF region. But this we can discuss at the end of the webinar. And then the project data insertion and FERM, normally it should be done by the project coordinator together with the monitoring and evaluation expert and the GIS experts. And sometimes there's also the figure of grassroots consultation experts, or the person that is like working more with the local communities or the indigenous communities, and this person could be also part of the integration of the data sets in the platform. Okay, I think with this we finish the presentation on how we want to integrate or how is it to have the GEF projects in FERM. And I give the floor to my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Thank you, Chris. That was a beautiful background so far. I mean, we've learned about the background on the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. We also touched base on the FERM platform, GEF FAO project as a pilot study for FERM, and also what restoration means in the context of the UN Decade, data harmonization and key parameters relevant to target 2. I want to remind you, participant, again, that you can use the chat box for your questions. Also, don't forget to drop your emails, your name, and organization to register you so you can also participate in the demo. So again, we have to move forward. I mean, we're excited. This is why we are here to actually see what the data entry process looks like on FERM. So wake up, everyone, wakey, and try to, stretch your end and be part of this process. I mean, you should get along. If you need a coffee, get it. If you need a tea, try to grab one. So back to my colleague Carmen. Oh, so sorry, I have to bring you back on stage. So now we have to go into the practical session, and I'll be bringing back my colleague Carmen to take us through the registry process. And after that, we'll have Chris on board to take us through the best practices. Over to you, Carmen.
Thank you very much, Demi, for this great introduction to the demonstrations. So I will be sharing my screen again. I know this one. And then I can have here my presentation. I hope you can see it. So basically, the FERM, the Framework for Ecosystem Restoration, we've been talking about it for half an hour. Already, this is a website. You can type ferm.fao.org. And then you have different sections, as my colleague Cristiana was already mentioning. So you have the registry section, where you can register your restoration initiatives and good practices. You can visualize it with the geospatial data on the hand-in-hand geospatial platform, and you also have a search engine where you can find all the good practices and restoration initiatives that have been uploaded so far. And there will be also a dashboard that is under development that will provide you with statistics on, for example, what we would like to have for the GEF projects is how much the GEF projects are contributing in terms of restoration towards the national commitments or the regional commitment. How many commitments do we have in terms of restoration at the regional levels? That is also some numbers that can be interesting also for regional assessment and regional restoration pledges. So let's dive into the registry. This is what is it about in this webinar, to show you how to register your GEF project. In the register, basically, we have done this exercise in advance for you. So if you would like to open the FERM website, you will be already registered in the FAO GEF group. That is the group or institution where we have all the GEF projects of FAO. So the possibility that you have here, when you enter in this initiatives tab, when you filter in FAO GEF, you probably don't have to do it, because you will only be part of this FAO GEF institutions. You can filter by GEF 6, GEF 7, or GEF 8 cycles, and you can also filter by country. So if you want to know how many projects have been uploaded for a given country, for example, Georgia, you can then filter the country, and then you will see that there is one project in Georgia, and we have advanced a lot, I have to say, in the integration of FAO GEF projects of all the regions, and now we want to give a little push to also upload the projects in Africa. So this is why we're also doing this webinar. When we here, there is a possibility, in case you would like to register your GEF project, the first thing that you will have to do is to create your new initiative. You need to accept the terms on conditions that you can read, and then you can accept. And here you can register the name of your initiative. You need to choose the GEF reporting line, because there is a few specificities on the registry for GEF projects, such as the GEF core indicators that are included, and then the institution would be the FAO GEF institution. Once you have typed all this information, you can create your initiative, and you will enter in this registry. Okay, this is the GEF registry. I have created this project already. First thing that I would like to show you is that the FERM has a structure. The FERM Restoration Initiatives Registry has the following structure. So here on the left side, you have 3 parts. You have the planning and assessment part, the implementation parts, and the monitoring and reporting parts. And for, each of these parts has subsections. So I will go through all the subsections to show you how to register a restoration project or sustainable land management projects. Something else that it's important for you to know is that you can edit the projects here in this actions button. You can also add collaborators. For example, if there are several persons that want to edit the same project, you can add your colleagues as collaborators, and you can submit for review the project once you have finished uploading all the information. And you can also add a good practice that will be explained later by my colleague Christiane. So I will continue explaining this part of the general part. Here, normally, the project coordinator or the responsible person for uploading all this information needs to define information related to the title. Here, I have put I've seen that the colleague from Equatorial Guinea, the project coordinator of the project in Equatorial Guinea, the GEF6, is on in this webinar. So I have used this project as an example, so feel free, colleague, to edit the information later. Here you can define the GEF project symbol, the GEF investing type, if it's a project or a program, the GEF cycle, in this case it's a GEF6 project, and then the focal area. You will also need to define some description where you can define the objectives of the projects in terms of restoration, the website, the starting and the ending year, the type of restoration, the tenure status of the land that you're going to restore, etc., etc. There is many things. I have put the point of contact here of the person that is the project coordinator of this project. Then you can define some keywords such as restoration, forest, the keywords of the project you can include there. You can also include the organizations that are implementing or executing the project. So this will be the part of the general information. And then you can save and next, and you can go to the next part. So this part, the areas and ecosystems part, is the most important part, because here is where we're defining what I was explaining before, no? The FAO GEF methodology. You need to define first how many hectares you have committed. Then you need to upload your restoration plan. And then you might upload also the spatially explicit information. So for example, here, in this project, imagine that in the design phase, we have committed 20,000 hectares of land under restoration, and then we have passed the midterm review, and we still plan to restore 20,000 hectares. Here's the breakdown by core indicators. So here we're going to restore 20,000 hectares in the core under the core indicator 3, that is ecosystems under restoration. Then here I will upload the restoration plan in the information on the restoration and management plans. And here in the next section, I will upload the geographic information. So the spatially explicit data. Here I have already uploaded a polygon that is just a random polygon. Please, this is only a test, so don't consider this as true. Okay, but basically here, when you go down, there is different possibilities to upload your restoration site. You can draw a polygon on the map directly. This is what I have done here. If you zoom in, this is a polygon that is close to Niafang in Equatorial Guinea, in the continental part of Equatorial Guinea. You can draw this polygon and say, okay, we're going to work on this 354 hectares. You can also upload your shapefile if you have worked on the GIS file before in a QGIS or ArcGIS program, or you can also upload it in KM-JSON format if you have worked on Google Earth Engine or on Google Earth. You're free to upload your information as you want. But basically, it would be important to have the geospatial information in the platform. You can give it a name. And then something else that is very relevant, because we want to know the ecosystems that each project is restoring, we have the possibility to calculate the ecosystems, ecosystems that are being restored with this platform. So you can select the ecosystems that you are restoring in this list. For example, here we know that we're restoring tropical and subtropical forest biomes and intensive land use biomes. Or we can just get the biomes. The program will calculate you the biomes that you're restoring or the ecosystems that you're restoring, and then you can click or unclick the biomes or the ecosystems in this functionality. So now we will know that there is 354 hectares that we are restoring, and that these are, we're restoring these two ecosystems, tropical and subtropical forest biomes and intensive land use biomes. This is the area that will be saved. If we click Save and Next, we will pass to the characteristics tabs. Here, we can calculate some characteristics of the restoration site with, spatially with information that is coming from the satellites. Here in this specific area, we're getting this information from EarthMap, this other program that is a geospatial program developed by FAO. And here, for example, we will be able to calculate some parameters that can be helpful to monitor the restoration in the field. So for example, we have a background biomass information on this area that has been decreasing throughout the years from 2010 to 2020. We have some numbers in terms of land productivity dynamics. Also, we have some numbers in terms of land cover. Here we have mainly closed forests. Also the elevation, the temperature, the precipitation, and also the species richness that has been increasing in this area based on the information that is coming from the satellite. So it will be important also, of course, to ground truth this information, because the information that is coming from the satellite needs to be compared to the information that you compile on the ground. If you want to know some detailed information on all these parameters, you can always click the information button and you will have more information. So when you save and next, you click on save and next, you can go to the activities part. So in this same restoration site that is NIEFAN, is called NIEFAN restoration sites, you can select the different activities that you are applying inside. No? So for example, here we are using some biophysical activities that are, for example, promotion of sustainable forest management and tree planting, and some activities that are related to soil and water management, such as reduced tillage and improved fertilizer and agrochemical use efficiency in this specific plot. Then you can save and next, and we will pass to the indicators part. So the indicators part is basically has three sections. We have the GEF core indicators that are here. You can select, you can maybe define that this area lies under GEF core indicator 3.2, that are areas of forest and forest land under restoration. So we will select, and the program will save this area under this core indicator. Then we can also add project-specific indicators that maybe are also in your results framework. This project-specific indicators are coming from a framework that is called Aurora framework that was developed by FAO and the World Research Institute, and it has different sections. And you will find here a list with many, many indicators that you can select and then enter the values of these indicators for this area that you are restoring. In case you don't find the indicators that you are measuring in the project-specific indicators, you can also add custom indicators. In the monitoring section, you will be able to enter datasets on the different indicators that you have selected before. So for example, in this NIEFAN restoration site, this is just an example. There has been I selected one of the indicators that is perception of restoration. And the indicators is percentage of population that values native species. So for example, maybe at the beginning of the project, only in 2022, only an 80% of the population in this area valued the native species, and then in 2022, sorry, here you can select the year. In the midterm review of the project, there will be 100% of the population that is valuing the native species. Also, if you're working with, for example, land tenure issues, that is also could be also part of a restoration activity. You could calculate, for example, the percentage of land that has been officially designated by use rights, and maybe at the beginning of the project there was 0%, and at the end of the project there's 100%. So there is a wide range of indicators that you can select and you can monitor with this platform. Once you have indicated all these indicators and all the restoration areas. Sorry, this map is currently under development, but basically the project should show you here in this map the restoration site. And then you will have here a map with the restoration sites and all the restoration sites in the country. Then you will be able to monitor how much indicators you have committed and how much you have achieved. So for example, here we have achieved 354 hectares of forest and forest land under restoration. You have different graphs, and then you can calculate how much you have achieved and how much you have committed per core indicator. This would be the results of the project that once you have published this information, you can also visualize and look at your project in the search engine. Okay, so I'm going to save and exit. The information would be saved in the platform. Now, if you add some collaborators to this project, there can be many different persons edit this information in the platform, and you can every year or the moment that you want, you can update this information in the project and include areas, include indicators, and update all the project information. Okay, and with this demo, I'll give the floor to my colleague Cristiane, that is going to present you the registry of the good practices. Thank you very much, and Cristiane, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Carmen. That was a great explanation on how to register initiatives for GEF projects. So now, can you see my screen? You can just nod, I think, Tammy and Carmen. Thank you. So now, like following the registration of initiatives, you can also document your good practices associated to the restoration projects you are implementing. So here again, I have the FERM main page. So as Carmen showed, you can always click on the registry button, and then you will see the initiatives you documented. So she was showing you these initiatives, and then after you finish the initiative registration, you can then click on this button called Add Good Practice. Either here or here, you can also find the Add Good Practice button. And then when you click, you see another form. This is a different form. This form was developed by the Best Practices Task Force for the UN Decade and is based on the 10 principles for ecosystem restoration. So the logic of the form is to allow restoration practitioners globally to replicate good practices on restoration. That's the aim of collecting and disseminating good practices. If it's your first time using this, collecting and documenting your good practice, you will see guidelines will show for you. Then you have to consent that you agree of sharing the information of your good practice with other restoration practitioners in the FERM platform. Here you can also read about the definition of what is a good practice for ecosystem restoration. Basically, is a component of your initiative that has been tested and applied in different contexts, and that you think like that can be replicated by other restoration practitioners in other regions of the world or in similar contexts. And also here you can see the guidelines for submitting and the assessment criteria that the reviewers that will be assessing your good practices after submission will be using to approve or not to be published in the platform. So then here, just to give you an overview about the sections, I'm not going to go through all the questions, but then we have a section on objectives and context of the practice. Here you provide.
Sorry, Cristiane, can you zoom a little bit more on your screen? I think that is better, that we can see a little bit better.
Better?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Great. So the first section is objectives and context, and here we'll have some questions about the objectives of the practice implemented. And also here is connected to the initiative form. So you'll be registering many areas on restoration in the initiative form. And then here you can select which areas you implemented this practice or not. And so you can select the ecosystems, and then you can provide some context on the implementation of the practice and also the degradation drivers that you are addressing by the practice. And then in the second section, you can also click on save and next, like Carmen was showing, is a similar format as the initiative form. So in the methodology, this section is very important for replication. So here we ask you to provide information on the steps for implementation of the practice. So you can provide like detailed information to help other practitioners like around the world to use your practice to replicate and to also like scale up restoration efforts. And here also we have questions on stakeholders engagement, participatory approaches, types of knowledge is used in your practice, and also about replicability. Like here we ask you to provide information if the practice has been tested and replicated, and if can be used to other initiatives in similar context and with similar goals. And then we have the third section, which is key factors, constraints, and lessons learned. So after you provide information on the context, objective, and then how to implement the practice, we want information about like what happened after the implementation, what are like the constraints you faced when implementing the practice, what are the lessons learned that you want to share with other restoration practitioners. And then here also we have some multiple values question, which is easy. Here you can separate the constraints and risks and how can you address them and share the lessons learned. And then we have a section on benefits and validation. So after implementing, after understanding lessons learned, what are the benefits you have after implementing this practice? So here you can share with other practitioners the positive impacts, negative impacts, and also the validation among the beneficiaries, or if you have published any paper about the practice that you can validate and prove that it was implemented and has these benefits. And then the last section is on additional resources, where we ask you to provide links about the practice, any social media or published websites about the practice. And also if you are interested to provide more information on costs and benefits, which is very important related to restoration, you can also type yes, and we'll redirect your practice to the FAO's teams on economics on ecosystem restoration, and additional information and a picture that will be showcasing your practice after publishing. And then after you do that, you can save and exit. And then you'll see, and when you access the practice again, you'll see a button submit for review. Maybe I can show this in another practice. Or let me see if I found a test or something. Or this one, for example. So you see this button submit for review after you've completing the form. And after doing that, the practice will be undergo a review process. And if approved by like the review process is an external review process. We have a list of external reviewers that assess your practice. They are volunteers. They are also members of the best practices task force. And we'll usually submit to 2 or to 3 different reviewers. And then they will assess your practice against 9 questions that is available online, also in the FERM user guide for you if you're interested to know what are the questions they will be using to evaluate your practices. And if the practice achieves an average score higher than 6, then we approve it and then we publish in the FERM search engine. Now I will show you the FERM search engine, just that you have a view like about how the practice is visualized. So this is the FERM search engine. We have now the FERM search engine for the initiatives and for the good practices. So here on the left, you can see some filters. So if you're looking for initiatives or good practices at the specific like ecosystems, you can click, for example, forests here. Then you see like we have 6 initiatives and they are collected from the FERM. So for example, I don't know if we have one here for GEF now to show you, but we can show you one of the flagships example. So for the initiatives, after you document the initiative as Carmen presented to you and you click to publish it, then you have like this personalized page for your initiatives where you see some general information. You can also share this link within your networks, and then you will see the results that you showed, that you can see it publicly here for sharing or for knowledge exchange. And also, let me show you the search engine for good practices. Then to access the good practices, you click on here on good practices. And for the moment, we have more than 1,500 good practices already shared, because we are collaborating with platforms such as WOCAT and Panorama that were already collecting good practices. Probably you heard about Panorama. I know they have many practices, or WOCAT. So for this tool here, you can filter by degradation drivers. You can filter by ecosystem as well. You can filter by region. For example, now that we are having all of you are from Africa, we can see how many practices we have from African region. So we have 551 good practices from Africa already documented in the platform. And then if you're interested in learn more about one of them, you can click on them, and then you can click on view full good practice, and then you'll be redirected to the web page with full information about this good practice. This one is from WOCAT, so here you can learn and you can read more about the practice. And you can do this, you can do like different filterings and searches. And also here we have the FERM practices collected, just to show you. So after you document your practice and being reviewed and approved through FERM, as I just show you how to do it, you have also like a personalized page for good practices in FERM. And here, as I mentioned, we have these volunteers, which are restoration experts that are reviewing the good practices. And here you can even see who reviewed your practice after publishing it. And because we are recognizing these reviewers, you can also see all the information about the practice. You can jump to the specific section you are more interested in, for example, implementation steps of the practice. We also have like a section on comments where you can provide inputs or exchange knowledge about the practice. And then we can also share the links with your networks, within your networks. And that's it. This is the search engine for good practices and initiatives. And this is like a global movement to scale up ecosystem restoration for the UN decade, and also helping at the Rio conventions. And we are mentioning, we are working closely, collaborating with the CBD. And that's it. I think we finished. Maybe we have questions. We can move to the questions and answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you for the presentations, and it's been a wonderful session so far. So just to make sure that our participants are with us, it's Q&A time. But before the Q&A time, I would like to mention that we have a YouTube channel, and please, you can follow us, as we will be uploading more videos in the future, like this particular meeting, the webinar on how to use FERM for both your registry and best practices will be uploaded to FERM. And also we have like more YouTube videos that we're trying to record for more detailed information, and to ensure that people have like the easy platform to actually learn what they can do on FERM effectively. So we will be uploading all of this video on the YouTube platform. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more future updates. So moving on to the Q&A session. We want to make sure that it's not just myself, Carmen, and Chris that is just on this platform presenting to ourselves and listening to ourselves. So we would like to hear your questions now. Do you have any question? I think I have a question from the chat box that says that how do we ensure that the unit of measure is only adopted in hectares? So I think over to you, Carmen, since you're coordinating the GEF project. So I think you should be able to say something. Okay.
Exactly. Yes, Temi, thank you very much for your question. So basically, yes, the colleague Elijah, he asked that how do we ensure that your unit of measure is wholly adopted in hectares? It's just the unit that we are using for defining the boundaries, because the GEF core indicators, they are defined in hectares, no? So we have decided to use the hectares. We could use the square meters or square kilometers, but we have decided to use hectares because it's the commonly used unit that you can that we are using also for the GEF projects. So basically, it's gonna select. The program FERM calculates you once you upload the boundary. It calculates how many hectares it has, and it sums up all the hectares. If you, for example, have several boundaries that are located in different regions, you can upload area 1, area 2, area 3. And then the FERM program will sum up all the hectares, and then you will have a total area in hectares of land under restoration. Basically, this will be the answer.
Thank you, Carmen, for the quick response, and I hope like our participants get a clarity of this. And please, for our participant, feel free to raise up your hand. And once you raise up your hand, I can see it on the dashboard, and I'll be able to bring you to the limelight. I think we can give about 3 or 4 people opportunity to speak and ask their question. While I look forward to that, I would like to read one more question from the chat box. Okay, we have a question like, in an event that you mentioned, we have more than one project, say 2 projects, do you create 2 initiatives in the registry? So I don't know, Carmen or Chris, any one of you want to answer?
Yes, basically here I answered the colleague already in the chat. The colleague Lamson from FAO Uganda. If you have 2 FAO GEF projects, then you will register each of them under a different initiative. You will have to have 1 initiative per project, basically.
All right, thank you. I have to read that, so I don't know, other people can benefit as well. And I think we have one more last question in the chat box. Is FERM replacing AMAT2? Maybe I don't really know what AMAT is, but maybe my colleague understands it. But is FERM replacing AMAT2? I mean, yeah, Carmen, can you answer as well? Thank you.
Here in this question, maybe I will give. Maybe I will give. Wait, I'm gonna mute. I will give the floor to the colleague Pulane that made these questions, because I really don't know what the AMA tool is. So maybe Pulane, if you would like to explain what AMA tool is, then we can discuss this.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. There was a time when FAO was implementing a GEF project, and now there was a tracking tool that was used that was called AMAT. So we never got to understand well how it is used. So now you are talking FERM. This is why I'm asking if the FERM is replacing AMAT tool.
I don't think FERM is replacing AMA tool. Because it's a new tool that has been developed, the development since 2 years, since 2021. No, a little bit longer, since 2 years. And basically, we thought that we're developing this tool for the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration to compile all this information related to restoration. And we want to have this information in a spatially explicit format. And then we thought it is a great opportunity for the GEF projects to take advantage of this tool and upload their projects there, and that way they can also monitor and track the consecution of the GEF core indicators, and also you can also have a track of how much, for example, the GEF projects are contributing towards national commitments in terms of restoration. So this is the numbers that you will have. You will have the possibility to see once all the GEF projects will be uploaded in the platform. Okay, I see that.
Yeah, thank you, Carmen. That was, I mean, I hope that should be able to answer the question as well. And another question just popped up, and thanks to all our participants, it shows that you're following up with the whole meeting. I mean, this motivates us as well. So one more question, it says, is there a set of period for updating the registration of each project, or is it an automated process? Carmen, I think you have to answer this as well.
Okay, so the colleague from Equatorial Guinea, Juan, that I had the opportunity to also meet there, he's asking, is there a set period of updating the registration of each project, or is it an automated project? Basically, you can upload the information every in the design phase, then in the midterm review phase, and then the terminal evaluation phase. And if you wish, you could also update it every year under the project implementation report. Actually, this year in this year's PIR, in the project implementation report, there is an annex on FERM where we recommend all the projects to upload their data, because we would like to have all the projects uploaded by July this year. But the uploading of the data, basically, it needs to be done by the project coordinator each time. So there is not going to be an automated process. If you're asking, because once you publish the information and the information is freely available, is available for everyone, like public in the search engine, then if you want to update the information again, you will need to unpublish it, update the information, and then you can publish again. But every time you publish the project, there's going to be one person that is probably going to be me, that is going to review that the data is correct. And then once you have we have checked all this information, this information will be public. I don't know if I answered your question, Juan. If you want to comment anything, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, Carmen, you said that was cleared. I mean, yeah, so it's been a beautiful session, and I want everyone to know that the Q&A session, it's an informal session to actually hear from everyone. So you're free to ask your question. And for now, I think we've covered all the questions, and it's quite amazing because we are ahead of time. Today's meeting was scheduled for 1.5 hours, and at the moment, we've only spent 1 hour and 3 minutes. So we have a lot of time. And if there are no questions ahead, I would like to say that it's been a beautiful session so far. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for all the participants that participated in today's meeting. And please don't forget to actually subscribe to our YouTube channel. And this is for you to stay informed on what is happening with GEF project and what are the new updated tools we have on the FERM platform. So thank you all. And if you have any questions or inquiries, please feel free to reach out to us on FERMsupport@fao.org. Thank you very much for joining. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very
we
good.
keep in touch.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day,
Bye.
everyone. We can share the PowerPoint presentation, of course.